Alright, so this is your pattern. Sorry about my shadow. And this is the dart that you've created. In order for you to make it into a princess dart, all you have to do is just to draw a really draw a curve right here. God. And just blend it into this line here. Now, if this is the front, well, this is the front. The line will be a little bit more curvy. If it's the back of your garment, then the line would be a little bit more straight. So that's the first step. Then all you have to do is just cut along this line to get it into two pieces. So that's what I did here. So I cut along both of the dart lines here, and I cut along the dart line here, and this is the piece that came from the middle. And now I have two pieces. Now next thing, of course, you're going to do is you're going to add a half to a quarter inch seam allowance to each side, so that when you sew it back together it doesn't get tight. So that is pretty much how I created the princess theme from my pattern. Let's get back to the sewing. And the first thing I do is fold my fabric lengthwise, which is putting the selvage edges together, and the fold is towards me. Even though my fabric is white, I didn't establish a right side and a wrong side, so I will end up sewing the wrong sides together, and that may cause a problem because I've sewn garments where I end up with two left sides because I didn't establish a right side from a wrong side. So I simply just use a pencil to mark, put a small dot on the wrong side of the fabric each time I cut out a section of a pattern. Next thing we're going to do is lay our pattern paper. Okay, so let's go over the pieces that we have here. Now directly, well, right here we have the back of the pattern. Now you're wondering why my pattern looks so is because I simply went ahead and removed the dart so I can make it into a princess theme, and I'll show you how I did that. Now, which means that I have to add a half inch right here. I didn't add it to my pattern because I simply made a note, so I knew to add half inch to all the seam areas. So this is the back of my pattern laid out. And then I have the front of my pattern over here. So this is the lapel, the part that will break when you have on your jacket. This is the extra inch that we add for the button space so we can have an overlap. So these is where I mark my button. But I'll probably just go ahead and curve this area to give it a nice little detail. Not sure yet. Then we have the other parts of the front, which is we have the side seam over here, section of the arm. My pattern. I marked notches so I can know exactly where to put them, how to put it back together. So ensure that you mark your notches. So now I've cut out all my pieces. I've added all the seam allowances. And I've marked all my notches with all my jacket piece. Now I have to cut out the facing half of the shoulder, the entire neck, down the front, all the way down, then to halfway down the front of it right here. Then all I'm going to do now is to connect from here in a nice little curved line all the way up to the shoulder. Okay, this is only the facing part of it, so I don't have to make a complete front section again. Just ensure that when you make your facing, it's big enough so when you fold it up, it's not sticking out. So this is what it should look like. Now this is where you can get creative with your lapel. Say I'm making a jacket in white, I could make my lapel out of black or satin or different type of fabric to give it a little extra pop, but I'm making a complete white jacket. Now I also need to cut two of these out of interfacing so I can fuse it to it in order to give it structure, so when I break my jacket it breaks really nicely. So this is the lapel and this is the actual front of the jacket. So if I put one on the other, match it up. Yeah, this one is smaller than the actual jacket piece. And I've also made a notch here on the lapel and a match. For my sleeve, I have went and squared a line. Now this would be the fold, since my sleeve will be cut on fold. Now to get the measurement for your sleeve, before you had gone and separated your pattern, it would have been best to take this measurement already. You measure from here all the way around here, the pattern paper not including the seam allowance, and then from here to here. So mine is around 5.5 plus 4.5, but I now simply going to, sleeve. It's like a S, draw an S curve, and ensure that that curve measures 9.5 or 10 inch. So there's no exact science to how I make my sleeves, but I prefer to draw a line about 5 inches down, and that's where the end of the curvy S part will stop. So all I have to do is just connect the curve. So that is my line. I made a mistake, so I put some tape to cover it, so as I said before. Now this is where I want it to stop. This is about a 3/4 inch sleeve. So I measure that portion of my body, which is just below my elbow, a loose kind of measurement that will be comfortable in my hand. So I marked it here, and then after I'm going to add, of course, my 5/8 of an inch for seam allowance. So all you have to do now is just connect this line to the line right here, one straight line. It's one straight line, but I tend to want my sleeve a little bit more fitted to my hands, not uncomfortably tight, but a little more fitted. So I tend to step in a bit and then come all the way straight down to get it closer. You can do that as well if you want it to be fitted, but this is the base layer. So that's I finished product. I went ahead and marked the seam allowance, and also went ahead and shaped it in so it's a little bit more fitted on my hand. So that's pretty much it. You place this portion on the fold and you cut 2 sleeves out. Let's do the collar. Now for the collar, you have to record 2 measurements. This is the back neck, so you're going to measure from the center back all the way up to the shoulder, and then again you're going to minus whatever amount you left for seam allowance. You're going to write down that measurement, and then you're going to take the front part of the pattern. Remember, this is your lapel right here, and you normally have your sleeve stop about this point, there about around depends on how long you want this portion to be, so around 2.5 inches from the front. So then you're going to measure from here all the way up to here and write down that measurement, and minus of course whatever amount you left out for the shoulder allowance here. And those are the 2 measurements you need to draft your collar. Let me just show you what I was referring to right here. So it depends on how much you want to be left out right here. If you want an inch, 2.5 inch, but I find I like it better when the amount left here is almost equal to the length of the collar. Looks better in my opinion. First up, your collar is cut on fold. So you fold. Collar is cut on fold, so we have fold, but we're going to fold it in the opposite direction again. So it's going to be folded like this. Let me just get that straight. We're not. Normally your collars are around 4 inches, thereabout. So you mark 4 inches here, you mark another 4 inches here, you draw a straight line. Okay, time to put in your measurements. So this is the center back. From the center back to where you measure to the shoulder, minus the shoulder allowance, you put a mark there. And then from the shoulder all the way to the front, you put a mark. Now, normally tend to give it a little bit of curve, so it sits nicely when it's folded. So I'll come up about, say, a ½ inch, and I measure that line and put in a nice little curve. In. So I use my ruler to draw a curve, and this is where from the shoulder to the front where the collar will stop, that's the distance. And then I simply just go out by probably ½ inch to get the end of the collar. So it's not a straight line up from here. It goes out about 3/4 to ½ inch or wider, depending on how you want it. So all we have to do now is cut along this line. When I unfold it, that's what it looks like. This is the part, the center back. So this part is on a double fold again. So this is what your collar would looks like. So you'll sew this section to the neckline, and this will be the section that breaks over when you have on your jacket. I'll also cut a section of interfacing that matches just half of the collar. Now I want to add, because